So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special video again regarding ninth house, regarding Guru. Okay, pretty much the understanding of especially the sign of Sagittarius, because was actually asked from the last video I uploaded of Mars in the 11th house in Pisces. Somebody actually commented that, hey, you made a video on Scorpio, Aquarius, Pisces twice. What about Sagittarius? It's also an important zodiac sign. Can you explain a little bit about that? And of course, in reality, every single zodiac sign is as important as the other. Otherwise, there's no existence, even if you take away one house. But the sign of Sagittarius, which again, I keep saying the ninth house because it is the original ninth house. Right? It is the original ninth house. So if I keep saying ninth house, just know it means Sagittarius. So we want to understand, Sagittarius sign and what its essence is. And most of the time people misunderstand this sign because it's like it's been sugar-coated too much. Okay? But even the bitter chocolate. See, the sign of Sagittarius is not just sugar, it's a bitter chocolate. It's actually salted chocolate, which actually can taste even better. Now, obviously, one thing I want to say is my Charadasha course is open, for those who don't know, on Vedic Astrology Academy, and it'll be there once it's done. So you can just log on and watch the videos and the lessons and everything. And I just uploaded the career chart 3 for a student there today. Tomorrow's going to be, or next week is going to be property. Finding the timing of getting a property, which is very simple through Gemini. But anyway, Sagittarius sign. Sagittarius is a ninth house, right? Ninth house and Sagittarius represents father and guru. And Sun becomes the significator of the father. Jupiter becomes the significator of the guru. It represents pilgrimage. It represents publishing. In a way, we can say it's Updesha, right? Like oral traditional knowledge was actually the ninth house, because far back in time, I can't give you an accurate time because I don't know. I don't think most people know either. People assume things 5,000 years ago, 8,000 years ago. It could have been 200,000 years ago. We don't know. But back then, the intelligence was so high that if somebody said something to you, you just retain it. Here, if somebody was tell us something, we'll forget it the next day. We have to keep writing it, right? So we write, we memorize. So ninth house represents that Shakti of understanding certain rules and laws, because that's what they taught. This is why ninth house also represents law. Law, the man-made law, is very temporary. Why? Because if one law is passed by one set of government, then when the next government comes in, they're like, oh, no. Because people voted from this side, they're going to say, oh, yeah, well, we'll take away this law. It's changeable. But ninth house really represents that concrete, unchangeable law. It represents something which is timeless. The timeless law is the ninth house. So when the Guru spoke, he was not speaking back then from like a temporary point of view. Like, well, in this era, this is the law and please follow it. No, when the Guru said something to the disciples, to the students, it meant no matter how many times you're reborn, whether you have to take 900 births, that law applies. But now, in a modern context, see, we have to modernize astrology. And if you cannot modernize astrology and understand the house through modern civilization, then like Kapiel Raaj said, there's no use of astrology for any of us. So in the modern text, ninth house represents the man-made law. It represents foreign travels, distant travels. It represents post-grad education. Something now that you're specifically focusing on. You've done your bachelor's, now it's time to focus on that one thing. Back then, what was that one thing that the disciple was taught to focus on? On thyself, on oneself. Because the path was to understand God. What is this omnipresence which is everywhere, which is formless? That was the ninth house, Sagittarius. But now, Sagittarius represents not only just understanding that one specific subject, whether it's mathematics, physics, computer science, it also now represents one's ability to understand their own reality in a higher perspective. So for example, if let's say you saw, let's say there's this shed I'm looking at. For me, it's just this shed. It's just this box-shaped, rectangular-shaped thing. But once you understand from post-grad education of mathematics, of calculus and dimensions, when you see it, you're already understanding the depth of it. Why is it built? How is it built? What is the purpose of it? And a purpose higher than what a common person would understand. But then there's also this tamasic. See, you got to understand one thing. Each sign and each planet will have Trimurti to them. Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. Right? Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. All the planets have those qualities. All the planets at one point will help you be the creator. At one point can help you be a preserver of something. And at one point can help you destroy what was created. Like, for example, somebody creates a company. They created it. Then the CEO that comes in later on, 20 years later, they're preserving what was created. You can take Apple, for example, created by Steve Wozniak, especially, and then Steve Jobs came in as a salesman, and they created something. Then Steve Jobs continued to preserve it, right? Now, what can happen is, after Tim Cook leaves, some other CEO comes in, completely destroys what was created to create something new. So one thing experiences all of these three things. In our own lives, we experience the same aspect. We were created, then we see the preserving of our own life, and then we destroy sometimes our own life. Just like that, planets do it, and then the sign do it. So Sagittarius, the Brahma is represented by Guru. Brahma is represented by Guru. The original Guru, the original Gurus that were there. The preserver becomes the students. They have to preserve that knowledge. So there are certain time cycles in this world where it was all about creating. We're going to create this knowledge, this cathedral of knowledge. Now you have to preserve it. That's what the Guru said, right? I'm giving you this knowledge. It's your job to preserve it if you want to. Then there's a time cycle that says it's time to destroy this knowledge. And in a way, we are kind of on this post-transitional phase of seeing the destruction of this knowledge. Where ninth house is now becomes a taboo, becomes a dogmatic area of the life. Why? Because of that Shiva energy coming in. What can Shiva energy represent? It can represent anything, extremely bad to extremely good. So on the bad side, the sign of Sagittarius, okay, represents cults. It represents cults. It represents establishment. Something that is established and is not willing to change because it's bringing them something and they don't want to change. And ninth house, on the other hand, will also represent the laws that are set to destroy things. Ninth house is also the destruction and dissolution of the freedom. So in this day and age, you can say, we're experiencing that Shiva side. And it's not like everybody will experience. That's another thing. There will be certain groups of people, out of these 7 to 8 billion people, certain groups will still consider themselves as Brahma. No, we have to create something more now. Some will be like preservers. We want to preserve this knowledge of our ancient rishis. And then there are some that are going to declare it as taboo. They're going to declare it as the evil in this world that has destroyed people's lives. And it's not, and they're not wrong on it. And the reason why they're not wrong on it is because their limited views shows the wrong side of the ninth house. Ninth house represents false gurus as well. It's not just a guru. Now it even represents false gurus. So this is why we have to understand. And also ninth house represents a general, military general. Ninth house also represents wars. And even though I say that, okay, well, most of the wars in the past have been created through religion, right? Because of the church, because of something, the wars have been created. Because of those fatalistic thinking. See, faith and fatality are the same thing. One can have faith, but if that faith goes to an extreme extent, it becomes fatalistic. But the other reason why ninth house represents war, because it is dwelt from the 10th house. What is 10th house? 10th house is government. That established government, a governing body that is operating on a certain type of belief system. And ninth house becomes lost to that 10th house. Loss of that governance, loss of the order. And how does this occur? Because ninth house is dwelt from the 10th house of the government. That means 12th house is foreign lands, foreign influences. This is why 9th house is still also foreign influences. But it's the foreign influences that will always be that loss of that structure. And most of the time, wars will take place on a tamasic aspect, on a negative aspect. Because the other thing which is creating the loss wants to now establish their own self into the 10th house. So this is, and especially you got to understand, just by looking at the symbolism of Sagittarius, it is a half man and half warrior, horseman, archer, right? That's the symbolism of it. So just by the symbolism, we need to understand there is a strong purpose related to fighting for something. Fighting for something. So people will fight for their belief system. All wars also will take place because of a belief system. Even if it's military-industrial complex, their belief system is that we need to bring wars to keep the economy going. Well, that's the belief. That's their faith. And at the same time, this mutated figure You have a half human body and half a horse's body represents this mutated figure. Something which is not really seen by normal beings. So ninth house is this evolution of mutation. Mutations take place with the sign of Sagittarius. Then the other things you have to understand. What is 12th from Sagittarius? So you have 9th house, which is Sagittarius. What is 12th from it? 12th from it is the 8th house. Right? 8th house naturally represents death, destruction, transformation, ups and downs, hidden knowledge, secrecy, occult, and mysticism. So now think about this. This is very important. When we sometimes ask ourselves these questions, how was astrology discovered? How was all of these rituals and magics were discovered? These tantric siddhis were discovered. Kundalini, which is the 8th house, was discovered. So 12th from the 9th house, meaning Sagittarius, which is the guru, will represent what? It represents, you will commonly think it represents travels of the guru. Yes. It may even represent death of the guru, the exit of the guru, even exit of the father, travels of the father, 8th house. So when you see a 9th lord transiting in the 8th house, father could travel. Okay? But at the same time, well, actually, I shouldn't say transiting, because if you don't look at the dasha, nothing will happen. See, again, this is why I hate doing transit videos. I absolutely hate it with passion, doing these mundane transit videos for people and their ascendant. In mundane astrology, yes, it'll work. But when it comes to people's chart, it's just to, simply put, it's just for views and likes. That's the only reason to do transit videos. That's the honest truth. But you need to also look deeper into the 8th house, Scorpio. So Scorpio is 12th from Sagittarius, which represents what? Sleep of the guru. Because 12th house, naturally for us, represents sleep, bed pleasures, right? Represents dreams. So if you think about it, why the sign of Scorpio is there and why occult knowledge is there. And it shows us that the knowledge of occult, knowledge of those hidden powers, came in the sleep of the guru. Because you got to understand, guru is not really sleeping. A real, genuine guru is not really sleeping. They have exited their physical body and they go into the astral plane. What is the astral plane? It is the 12th house, Pisces. So 12th from Sagittarius being the sign of Scorpio, this is where the gurus understood why these dots in the sky are connected with our lives here. Because look, even if you look at, let's say pretend, because it's not true, but we're pretending. Let's pretend Maharishi Parashara, okay, was the very first guru. The first human guru to be called a guru. Parashara was born through a mother, grew up as a child, right? Had their adolescence, evolution, their teenage years. But somebody has to come and teach the child, the teenager, the 20-year-old wisdom for them to ultimately be considered a guru. Right? So that means there has to be some form of teaching there. Something has to be there to evolve this soul named Parashara. And because Parashara, Maharishi Parashara, is the father of Vedic astrology, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands years ago, not just Vedic astrology, I'm pretty sure he was well versed in mathematics and physics, everything. Once you look at that okay, he discovered astrology, which is 12th from Sagittarius sign, which are all the gurus. That means the guru must have had to attain something in their sleep, something in that astral plane. And this is something I actually, before I even try to understand Sagittarius sign on my own, I kind of just felt it like it has to come through some other dimensional beings that were readily available back then, where if you would sleep, they would come and visit you. And perhaps before even Parashara knew, Parashara had the horoscope, that alignment in the sky for him to receive that knowledge in that astral plane, for now him to bring about into this life, okay, and create that into the 10th house of karma. Now, the other thing we can also see, and this can again come down to, house to house relationship. The sign of Aries is 5th from Sagittarius. Sign of Aries is 5th from Sagittarius. Now, understand this. How does our educational world works today? You have a classroom, and you'll have minimum of 20, 30, 40 students learning from a single guru. This is the time now. But if you look at the 5th from Sagittarius, which represents the student of Sagittarius, student of the guru, it is Aries. It is what? 1. In essence, guru mainly originally taught single student all the wisdom. It was passed down from a guru to a single student. Okay? Guru, single student, guru, single student. So if, let's say there were 7 rishis, Sapta rishis, right? Created by Brahma. Each of those Sapta rishis would have 1 single student. Now what happens? Right? Sagittarius is Brahma. Even though from Sagittarius to Pisces, these are Shiva ruled signs. Like the Aries to Cancer is Brahma. Leo to Scorpio is Vishnu, preserving. Sagittarius to Pisces is Shiva. Okay? Because these are the houses from Sagittarius to Pisces where you have to forget about your family, your attachments and everything, and you have to work. You have to learn, you have to work, you have to serve society, and then find God. That's Shiva. This is why it's Shiva. And just like that, you can have nakshatras who will be ruled by Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. You'll have the padhas themselves ruled by Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. But now look at this. Once that student has learned, everything, the Brahma has taught Vishnu. Now what is 5th from Aries? Is the sign of Leo. Right? It's no longer singular. It's now 5. Now that particular disciple who learned the wisdom by Maharishi Parashara now teaches many. And they teach many so it can be passed down the generation, that ultimate knowledge. Why? Because the sign of Leo has the nakshatra of Magha, ancestors. And who is responsible for passing down that knowledge to Leo? It's Shukra. It's not Guru, it's Shukra. Shukracharya, Venus. Why? Because Venus is at the heart of Leo. It is in the heart of all the Dharma signs. In the middle of, you look at the middle of the zodiac sign, all the nakshatras are being ruled by Venus in the fire signs. And where was Shukra born? Shukra was born in Scorpio, Jyeshtha. By understanding this, we can understand perhaps it was Shukra coming into the dream of Parashara and teaching him all of these beautiful knowledge of Vedic astrology, which we can't even get up to even 2% of what is out there. Now, if you, let's say, look into your own individual chart, right? Your own individual chart, see where the sign of Sagittarius is. And see how that dynamic of that sign plays out. For example, you look at Taurus ascendant. Taurus ascendant has Sagittarius in the 8th house. It will be very hard for a Taurus ascendant person to completely give themselves to that essence of higher knowledge. And I'm not talking about higher knowledge as postgrad. I've seen every ascendant get postgrad education and PhDs. I'm talking about that essence of a guru. That guru vidya, meaning like, I don't care for these material things. I care for understanding this world. It becomes very hard for them because they are now immersed into the material plane of lust, seduction, and wanting to attain all the sensual things, because Taurus is rising. And death of Taurus becomes Sagittarius. Anytime they will go towards that knowledge, they have this natural fear, like, I hope this doesn't take me away from my material comfort. Okay. But at the same time, if they were to go there, that is going to be the major transformation in their life. You will see for Taurus ascendant people, death of father brings the most transformation. They change as an individual. If they had a professor they were very close to and they pass away, that brings a transformation. You can look at Cancer ascendant. Cancer ascendant has Sagittarius in the 6th house. It will be, most of the time, they will run into teachers and gurus who could be their enemy from past life. And they will feel like this person is an obstacle for me. And they may be. It becomes hard, unless, of course, you have Jupiter in the 6th house, protecting that sign, aspecting that sign, protecting it. For them, they will actually make guru their enemies in this life. They will create arguments. They will create fights with them. They will argue with their mentors and teachers in a mode of fighting. See, it's okay to ask your guru a question, have debates, go back and forth. That's always welcome. It's open debate. Debating is what, helps us understand the world. It can be just one-sided ideology. But what happens here is the type of people that they run into that are Sagittarius-like, whether it's father, whether it's guru, professor, teacher, their karma becomes to make them the enemy. And that becomes the prarabdha, right? 6th house is prarabdha. Prarabdha is to shut your mouth. Okay? Shut your mouth, roll your ego in some paper and burn it and go with that 6th house. That's the prarabdha of, let's say, Cancer ascendant. They have to bow themselves to the enemy, the guru, in order for them to clear out that karma. For example, you have Leo ascendant. Sagittarius becomes the 5th house. Okay? It's your children that'll actually teach you the wisdom you need in your life. It's your students as a teacher that will teach you the most wisdom in this life. It is your subordinates that are people that are working under you that you'll find have more wisdom than you, and they will teach you things in this life. For example, let's say Lahiri Mahasaya, who was an accountant, or I believe he was in railway or he was an accountant. Somewhere, let's say he was working in the office. Okay? And the boss of Lahiri Mahasaya, okay, is a regular individual. They're dictating him, telling him, okay, do this work, come here tomorrow, and then we'll finish this particular accounting work here. But then the boss understands that, wow, this person is actually the first or one of the few first individual to be initiated into Kriya Yoga. My goodness, I bow to you. And that actually did happen. Now that I think about it, it's funny, I just said that in my brain because Lahiri Mahasai co-worker wanted to meet, no. Never mind. They wanted to meet Lahiri Mahasai, and then their boss did not let them until Lahiri Mahasai appeared to that person, the boss, and they say, okay, I will let you go as long as you take me to meet this person. But I'm just saying, the wisdom is coming, that the actual godly knowledge is coming through the children. But at the same time, never forget Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. Okay, your children can also be that start of the war. Your children can also destroy the wisdom. And you have to see, is this sign behaving as Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh? And I don't have enough time to explain to you how to look at that, although it is quite simple. But you can see that okay, your Sagittarius in your house is the Shiva, is the Shiva for you. So here I am, the next morning now, wanting to continue this video because as much as I thought I had ended this video, I kind of like just waited and slept overnight on this video, and literally middle of my sleep, early morning when thunder was happening here, it's raining now, the lights went out, and I was just kept thinking about this video. I'm like, is there something I am missing? Because I really felt inside I did not really give even true essence of this particular sign. And so the other thing that just started coming into my consciousness is that, first of all, Sagittarius is the sign of Jiva. Jiva. And Jupiter is also Jiva. See, Jiva is what you see. It's what you see. The living nature. That's the Jiva. It gives life. The life force, is Sagittarius. So the reason why also, and now I realized, why I specifically wanted to make a video on Sagittarius, because Sagittarius is the sign of life, is the sign of Jiva. We naturally think that Aries is the sign of life because it's the first zodiac sign, the fire, right? But if, let's say, you have a body, right? Aries, you have a body. What good is that body if it doesn't have Jiva in it? It doesn't have the life force in it, doesn't have the soul in it. So Sagittarius becomes the anchor point for everything in our life. Now, for example, you want to understand Sagittarius and how it's connected with the Guru, and how it's actually different from the Karkavastha of father. Because Sagittarius represents the father and Guru, but there are two different things. They'll have two different meanings. So from Sagittarius, let's say this. Why does the sign of Capricorn falls second from Sagittarius? Capricorn represents work. It's service, it's duty, it's government. It's the world that we have to fight with every day. Right? Because you guys always email me with your career reading that I'm not getting along with my bosses, my coworkers hate me. Right? You have to deal with this dirt of the world, the politics of the world. And this is where, in the sign of Capricorn, Jupiter is debilitated. Why? Because for a guru to go out there like us, normal people, and fight for their living, it's become the death of the guru. This is why then guru goes there to die. And second from any house, second house, 7th house and 8th house from the ascendant is known as Marka houses, right? The killer houses. The houses that pretty much helps us exit. That end of the road. So from any house, any sign, 2nd, 7th, and 8th will be the marka. And the second here becomes very crucial because naturally second house is wealth and money and earnings, family. A real true guru, who exists for him or her, the entire world is a family. The entire world provides them with sustenance. They don't need to go out and work. But now if you put them in that situation, they have to go work, they have to deal with the politics, they can't focus on that true consciousness they have to observe. They're burning their karmas. Now, if let's say you look at 3rd from Jupiter is the sign of Aquarius. Don't look at the 11th house as Aquarius. From Sagittarius is the 3rd house, Aquarius, which represents the travel of a guru. And Aquarius will show that whenever guru travels, swarms of people will surround the guru. This is where guru will give updesh. The guru will speak, communicate. And where does communication happens? Whether you look at old age or this new age. It happens when a lot of people are surrounding the guru, and now guru is speaking the truth, speaking the wisdom. In this day and age, we have what? Conferences, auditoriums. So guru's desire, which is 11th from the ascendant, which is the desire house, becomes the travels of the guru. And that desire fulfills through pouring that wisdom upon everybody. 4th from Sagittarius is the sign of Pisces. That's the home of the guru. The home of the guru is everywhere. Why? Because Pisces represents ether. So think about it. Sure, this is why Pisces represents monasteries. It represents those monasteries of the monks. Like, for example, when I was in California, I used to go to, and I didn't even realize how important it was. I went to Vivekananda, it was called Ramakrishna Monastery, in Southern California. I used to go there anytime I got day off. Or if I wasn't working, I would just go there in the morning. Just sit. And I didn't even realize how important Vivekananda would become in my life. And this was only recently, I think last year, 2020, when I read the whole book of Vivekananda. I'm like, my God, is there some connection that he was attracting me to come there? So Pisces naturally shows that the guru's home will always be private, will always be secluded, would be in jungles and the rivers. Okay, monasteries, but literally it shows that guru's home is ether. Guru can be anywhere. Guru could be traveling in the train, and that is now where his home is. For those particular 9 hours, 8 hours in the train. I already explained to you about the student, the sign of Aries. Okay. Sign of Taurus now becomes 6th from Sagittarius. Taurus in 2nd house is what? Wealth, money, earning, family. The family and wealth will become obstacle for a guru. This is why you will see true, genuine guru will never ask from their disciples to give them money. They will never desire to have possessions. You go into some real guru's home, they'll have maybe a water pot, small bed, table, and maybe their rosary, mala. And that's it. Because once they dive into sustenance, possessions, it is going to be the obstacle onto their path, the final enlightenment. Then at the same time, 7th from Jupiter is the sign of Gemini. 7th from Sagittarius is the sign of Gemini, which represents the guru's spouse, Gemini. And Gemini is naturally the marka for the guru, the enemy of the guru, the opponent of the guru. This is why for them, marriage also then becomes that feels like it's killing their true essence. But what happens is because Gemini is there, naturally a guru will always be with somebody who will become their child eventually. Why? Because Mercury, who rules a Gemini sign, is Jupiter's child. Even though it's adopted child, a legitimate child between Tara and Chandra, but it's their child. A true guru will make the spouse their student as well. And naturally, because it's the sign of Gemini. See, Gemini represents the change. It's twins, right? It represents duality. It represents multiple of things. For them, they can consider 1,000 women or 1,000 men their spouses. For them, it doesn't mean anything. It's just a child for them. You look at the sign of Cancer where Jupiter is exalted, okay, which is 8th from the sign of Sagittarius. And if you look from Sagittarius, all the water signs are becoming the moksha houses for Sagittarius. The moksha houses are 4th, 8th, and 12th houses and signs from the sign of Aries. But from Sagittarius as well, it's becoming that. 4th house represents graveyard. 4th house represents rest. Okay? 4th house represents that final state of peace. Right? This is why we're always peaceful in the womb of the mother. Once we come out, we cry. And this is where Jupiter gets exalted, because Jupiter wants that final resting place. The sign of Sagittarius looking for that final resting place in the womb of nature. And then 5th house is the sign of Leo, which is 9th from Jupiter, meaning the guru of Jupiter. Who is the guru of Jupiter? Guru of Jupiter is the sign of Leo, which Leo naturally represents children. What are children? Children are simply ancestors from the past. So for Guru, teaching, again, 5th house, Leo, children. Teaching children becomes their practice towards their Guru. Leo is also represented by the sun, the soul, right? Solo. The word solo, meaning one, and soul, which is the soul, is the sun. So for them, Guru, the sun, naturally is that ultimate light of Vishnu. Then Virgo. Virgo is the natural 6th house. Virgo becomes 10th from the sign of Sagittarius. So it represents the work of the Guru. What does Guru really want? Because it's not the sign of Capricorn, the work. That becomes the marka. The 6th house in Virgo represents the service. Service of no cost to the people. And helping people with their obstacles, with their obstructions, with their diseases. That's where Guru finds like, this is my karma. This is my career. This is my work. And then Libra becomes the 11th from Sagittarius. Okay? Libra naturally is ruled by Venus, Shukra. It is marriage, bondage, relationships. It naturally represents marriage. So being 11th from Sagittarius, it shows that when the Guru forms a bondage with an organization, okay, forms a bondage with an organization, forms a relationship with a large group of people, this is where Guru will be showing his aptitude as a spouse. Because 7th house, if you gotta look at both the things, from the Aries, from the Sagittarius. It is the sign of marriage and the house of marriage. Guru knows that it has to get tied to a large group, again, a group, and be tied to them for a certain time. And show them the wisdom, show them everything, and then leave. Because also 7th house is Marka. That itself becomes the Marka for the Guru. So bondage is there, but at the same time, Guru knows, as long as I am here with this organization, this samstha, as we call it, I have to hold my progress for right now until this bondage is fulfilled. So, because remember, marriage is karma, the biggest karma, because it's the 10th from the 10th. Bhavat Bhavam of the 10th house is the highest of karma. So highest of karma for the Guru represents to form an organization or sanstha where they can create this bondage, give away whatever their knowledge is, and then release themselves. And then we already discussed the sign of Scorpio. So this is why, I was just in my half asleep, just thinking about these things. Now you can look at other things from Sagittarius. The first house is the Aries, right? Which is 5th from Jupiter. It represents the student, Shishya, for the Guru. Now let's say, for example, from Sagittarius, if the first house is the student gets sick, right? So if student gets sick, what is happening? That means the 6th house from the ascendant becomes active, which is the 10th house of the Guru. So you can see that when you get sick, the 6th house becomes active for your father. 6th house becomes active for your Guru. 6th house can represent obstructions, fights, arguments, and health. So one thing we see, when the student gets sick, Guru's karma becomes alive. Because now he has to help the student alleviate from this karma of sickness. This is why Guru takes on sometimes the sickness of the student and will get big fever and they wouldn't want to be healed. I remember Sri Yukteswar did that with his student when Yogananda was at the ashram. He's like, I have to do this because I'm burning the karmas of my students. But in this real life, if you're a professor, if you're a teacher and you realize today one of your students is sick, well, you realize, okay, my 6th house is now becoming active. For example, you're a professor, let's say, you're a teacher, because that's also the 9th house. Okay? And you receive money. You receive wealth. You have to go to some family party. Now you realize once you get wealth and money, the 6th from Jupiter becomes active. Or I'm sorry, not 6th from Jupiter, 6th from 9th house, which is also originally Sagittarius, becomes active. Because here you can use this concept with any zodiac sign in the 9th house. Because if you are a teacher, if you are a Guru, okay, the 9th house will be active. Whenever wealth comes in, it will cause some form of a fight, arguments, or some kind of obstacle with Guru's own family. This is why they want to stay away from these things. So you can go around activating each of these things from any zodiac sign, any house. So you have to think and ponder, because this is what I'm giving you here is something that can make you realize entire astrological cycle from any house and sign. Okay? So, I mean, and again, I can go on again with the father, but this video is going to be way too long. Perhaps I will discuss that in my KRS vlogs on my Magha Vedic Astrology Academy and go into details with this, maybe with other signs. Right now, I'm trying to complete my Charadasha course, and I'm going to complete that by end of this month. And once I do that, then I will continue my KRS vlogs video, because I've got a list of videos that I have to make. But I'm going to be finishing up this course first, and once that's done, then I can elaborate more on how the father situation works versus the Gurus. Okay. So anyway, guys, thank you very much. If you're new to my channel, subscribe below so you don't miss these type of videos. And if you want to know anything about your chart, my books, consultations, check out the links here. Otherwise, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.